What's going on, y'all? This your boy 1080G. This is the Unfocused and Focused podcast. We are back once again. Got the boy Tastro in the building.
What up? What up? What up?
What's good, man? It's Money Making Monday.
Money Making Monday.
Back in the building. We got Bars behind the cameras.
What up, Bars?
Bars is in the building.
Bars gonna swear. You mad at me? You mad at me? Like, what are you talking about, yo? What are you talking about? Why should I be mad at you?
Why didn't you say that earlier before we came on air? It's Money Making Monday.
It's Money Making Monday.
Nobody should be mad with anybody.
Nobody.
Money making money, mad at Bars.
Why would you even want to start the week off?
Money making money, mad at Bars.
That's fine.
Nah. Everything's good. Nothing but positive vibes in the building. How you feeling, Bars?
I'm feeling awesome, man.
I'm glad to hear that. I am glad to hear that. I am certainly glad to hear that, man. What's your streak? Streak on.
You know, Bars, you know, she likes to be in the gutter sometimes.
Oh, so that's what. Okay.
She's been on a streak.
I'm chilling right now.
She's been on a celibacy.
I've been chilling, but
She has been celibate for how long now? Is that the streak that you're
I
referring to?
thought it was abstinence. Is it abstinence or celibacy? Oh, celibacy.
yeah, abstinence is like you're not even doing the hippity-dippity with yourself.
Oh, snap.
I'll probably knock you down when I
Hippity-dippity.
came in the door thinking you felt some kind of way. It was like that. But it's not like that.
Oh my goodness, the hibbity dibbity, the hibbity
I ain't
dibbity,
never heard that one. The hippity dippity.
hibbity dibbity.
That's an Adam Sandler term, y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad Bars is good. How you feeling, Tastro? You good?
Feeling great.
Starting the Money Making Monday off. You know, starting the week off strong. That's important. You gotta set the tone.
Absolutely.
I feel like started the week off pretty good. It was a productive day. I ain't gonna lie. We had to go out of town. It was not a friend of the family, but a cousin of my girl. He passed away, and
Condolences.
yeah, we had to head out to Albany, Georgia.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it's crazy how situations like that bring your family that you ain't seen in a minute together, and you know it's cool to be able to flip that into something positive. And you know it wasn't so much a mourning situation. It was more so celebrating,
Right.
moving on to some people believe is a better life. You know, it's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on in this world, and yeah, rest in peace. But yeah, it was a long weekend. Came back tired. I feel like for the past 2-3 months, it's been
on go.
some type of road trip or flying out of town. I ain't gonna lie, I just wanted to kind of just chill for at least 2 months. Just
There's no such thing, man.
not chill like
There's no
I
such
ain't gonna be
thing.
out here still ripping and running through the streets of Atlanta, but you know, I just want to sit tight for a little bit.
That's not gonna happen either, though. Like, it's no such thing, man. When you are a hustler and a grinder such as yourself, you can't sit down, man. There's gonna always be something to do. There's gonna be always somewhere to go. There's gonna always be something to accomplish. So you might as well go ahead and get that out of your mind right now, man. You know, you're gonna be on the go because it's only up from here.
True. Yeah, it's all good. You know, you take it in stride. I keep it positive, and you know, it's just part of the journey. It's part of the journey. So, you know, it is what it is. It's always interesting to find out after the fact where your journey's leading you, because it's like you making this move, that move, and
right.
You know, you making it happen in the moment, and then it's like you don't really realize. Sometimes it may be a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, like, damn, okay, that's why that happened like that.
Yeah.
That's why I had to go there and do this and that. And
gotta trust the process.
yeah, you gotta definitely trust the process. So, you know, it could be tough sometimes. You wrapped up in it, and it's like, damn, you know, everything ain't going the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always that silver lining at the end of the tunnel. If you believe it's a silver lining at the end of the tunnel, it's gonna be there, you know. But yeah. What else is new, man? Money Making Monday. What anything else you got going on, Tastro? We ain't talk about no music or nothing.
Bro, I've been recording like something serious.
Okay.
At my crib.
Alright, y'all. I'm gonna have to wrap it up and get up out of here.
Like, what do you? I've said this before, so I don't know what like. Yeah, yes, I did. I certainly said that before. But yeah, I've been recording something serious, bro. Like, I got some serious magic coming.
He got the in-house studio. Sound like Bar's trying to get on the mic.
I'm just saying. So you said that. I thought the only thing I've heard you say was next time you have a session, invite me. I didn't hear you say.
I've said that.
I'm recording at my crib, or
I've said that after.
At the crib.
I've said that after the fact. As a matter of fact, it came up on more than one occasion, and that was like off of the camera, away from recording the pod. I've said something about that.
Don't say it because we ain't got no proof. We can't just say episode 3, 45 minutes.
I mean, even if it was an episode, I wouldn't even know which one it was. But I've said it to you before. You just don't remember. That's all it is. You've been wrapped up in your own world, so of course you don't remember what I said.
Before that.
Nope, I've said it.
I was saying before that for 17 months. Why you think?
And when you were saying, I made mention of it. As a matter of fact, I made mention of it when you had me pinned in the corner reciting one of your rhymes that you were about to record at the studio that you were going to.
Made mention Money Making Monday. I got to get in the stew. That's what it was.
Got to get in the stew. She got that itch. Bars is itching to get in the studio.
And I was like, yo, when she was reciting the drill, I said, yo, let me just hear it when it's done. She said, nah, you need to hear it now. And I was like, all right, well, here we go. And so that's what happened.
Where
but yeah, man, I've been seriously working, man, because I want to drop 2 projects this year. I want to drop 2 joints this year. Of course, the joint that we've been working on forever, but then also something additional. So I've been working, and the thing is, like, this whole time, like, all these years when it comes to, like, working and such, I've always gone to a studio, had an engineer, and all this other stuff. So me recording myself has been rather new and different, and difficult to say the least, because it's just you learning, you know, a whole new job in regards to how this music thing works on the engineer side, which has been liberating to say the least, because I've had the opportunity to just experiment with the creative process and the things that I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to convey my message across. And I'm really excited for what the people will hear as far as the stuff I've been working on, bro. So so we got some stuff coming. We definitely got some stuff coming for sure.
Well, that's what it is, man. I'm glad that you able to kind of transform in a sense. You've been in the studio letting somebody else record,
right,
in other people's studios, and you know, you've been doing this for a minute. You know, and a lot of people, they get stuck in their ways no matter what they're doing, and it's hard to learn new things.
Yeah.
And, you know, adapt to the situation.
Right.
You know, but you adapted and learning new skills. And could you call yourself an engineer at this point?
Engineering, well, you know what? Yeah, I could say that, because when I have, like, for example, my homegirl Chinga that I have as a vocalist on a lot of my tracks, when I have her to come through to record and lay down stuff for me, I'm recording her. Mm-hmm. I'm getting her voice right. You know what I mean? I'm adding the reverb and the whole nine. So I guess it is safe to say that I'm an engineer. Now, granted, I'm nowhere near where I want to be in regards to it. Like, I'm not a staffer on the engineer tip. You know what I mean? Because he's an animal when it comes to engineering. You know what I'm saying?
Do you see yourself taking even further? Maybe you making your own beats?
You know what's funny? I actually thought that I would be doing that first before recording myself first. I actually thought I would be at this particular point making my own beats, because there's times where there's a certain type of melody or something that I want to do, or a certain type of beat that I hear in my head, and I'll hit up Neat Ways, or I'll hit up Soundboy Millionaire.
Maximus.
Oh yes, yeah, Neeks Maximus, my bad. And I'd be like, yo, can you make this, that, and the third? And he like, man, get away with that. And so it's like stuff like that when people kind of like don't really want to deal with what you got going on in your head as far as making something around it. Yeah. It's times like that where I want to learn how to make beats, and I know it's gonna come to a point where I actually do learn, but that shit is time consuming as well, bro. Like, I don't know nothing about making, like, I mean, I know like the machinery and how, what it looks like and all that, but as far as the whole technical process, I don't know nothing regarding that, man. So it's like I have to learn something new all over again, and that's just kind of scary within itself. But eventually I'm gonna get to the point where I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that though.
Word. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I'm such a music fan that I tried to do the beats. I tried to create beats. What was the? I think it was like MTV Music Generator. Mm-hmm. I remember both my brothers had that. First, my older brother had it, and he was putting together some crazy beats. And then my little brother, who you probably heard some of his music.
Yeah, he's dope.
Yeah, Jay Arson. He started off on the Music Generator, and I thought I was jumping in, and I learned real quick, like, man, you gotta have like a special talent and feel for this. I tried the Fruity Loops, and this was before I got into the video editing.
Yeah.
It was like I was just trying stuff, like I want to do something new, something creative, something a little more hands-on. And yeah, I couldn't do the beats. I don't. Shout out to all the producers out there.
That's a serious skill set, bro.
And
like,
that's why I asked you if you was gonna switch to the beat making, because you got people like J. Cole, who spit. He's one of the top spitters out there.
Right.
And he's also making
his beats, yeah,
for himself and for other artists.
That's true.
That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
But see, the thing is though, if let's be real. No, I'd personally rather hear J. Cole over other people's beats though. Not taking away from
J. Cole on other people's
beats, not taking away from his beat making ability, because that's a serious skill set to have. But I would much rather hear him over other people's beats, because I feel like they're just it's just much better. But I think at some point there will come a point in time where I will make a beat or two and do my thing over it. But for right now, I'm gonna leave it to the experts. I'm gonna leave it to the skilled beat makers that I actually know before I start messing with that. Because like I said, like I should have been recording myself years and years ago, I feel like. But I guess better late than never. It's just one of those things, I guess, like the fear of the unknown, not knowing how it's gonna pan out, being that that's not what you do. You know what I mean? Like I feel as if, because all this time I'm a creative as far as the recording process is concerned. So to be on the other end of the spectrum where I'm actually behind the boards recording it, that always was scary to me. But it got to a space where it's like, yo, this is going to be way more cost efficient in the long run. Because I done spent so much money on studio time, on engineers. It's just ridiculous. So I feel like this is more economically feasible by me actually learning how to record myself. Because I can always, after I get finished recording, send the recordings over to an engineer that can, master and mix it like it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But at least have the basics down where you can actually convey your idea across as far as you being able to record it. So I've mastered that particular obstacle at this point. So I feel it's only up for here. So my point is, bars, as far as recording is concerned, if you are trying to record something, I am in fact recording and learning more on the recording process, so you can come through and record and make something happen as far as music is concerned.
Word. That's what I like to hear.
We appreciate it. Me and bars.
Wait, I'm confused.
Don't let it confuse you. Don't let it confuse you, bro. You heard it. Her and bars.
Well, I think it's time to introduce our guests for the evening. I'm gonna let you do the honors, Tasho, if you don't mind bringing
absolutely.
the guests for the evening.
Yeah. So it was recommended to me by a colleague to have this brother on, and from my own personal investigation, seems like a very positive brother with a lot of insight, motivational speaker, has had a sports career overseas, and I feel as if he can definitely bring something to the table in regards to positive energy, motivation, and all that entails.
Okay.
And so I have my brother here with us, Mr. Brian Barton.
Mr. Brian Barton.
Did I pronounce that correctly? I pronounced that correctly? Okay, just making sure, man. Just making sure.
One of the simplest names.
You know, hey.
Well, welcome, man. How you feeling?
I feel good, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
That was a hell of an intro. You've done a lot, man. It sound like quite a resume you got there.
Yeah, I tried to do a little something, just trying to work hard every day, and it's been something I've been trying to instill in myself since I was a kid, and just try to keep it going, because like I heard y'all say earlier, it never really stops, especially
for real.
That's part of your mindset, and I just try to keep going,
True. So how did y'all met through a
colleague? Yeah,
okay.
yeah. She was like, "Yo, you gotta get him on the podcast." I was like, "All right, cool." So I went to his website and I saw that he was a motivational speaker. That's what like reeled me in off gate, because I feel as if, especially in today's society, we need more motivational speakers as far as within the black community to help uplift, and then at the same breath for the youth to kind of have an example of motivational speakers as far as black men are concerned as well, because we got our sisters out here making great strides and definitely influencing, but we need more of the brothers out here doing the same thing. And I feel like this brother entails that, especially from going to the website. Like the website gives a breakdown of all that he has going on, and so I was inspired and motivated by just seeing the website alone. So I was like, yeah, we definitely got to bring this brother on, especially with him having the experience of being in sports overseas. You see what I'm saying? It's one thing to be, involved with it here in America, but to be somewhere else and making strides and doing things of that nature, I felt like that was a big deal, and we definitely got to bring his insight and expertise to the, to the podcast or whatnot. So
overseas, what were you doing overseas?
Well,
and where overseas?
Well, first I'll just start out just with my career in general. I started out here. I went to school at the University of Miami, where I played baseball. I was a transfer in.
I was wondering why you had the Miami.
Yeah, got to support,
Okay.
So I'm always going
to. They call that the U. The U.
Yeah,
okay.
Always. But I played a couple of years there. I transferred from Loyola Marymount down in Los Angeles, which where I'm originally from, and from there I started pursuing baseball on a professional level, where I was signed by the Cleveland Indians, and I played a couple of years there. I know we talked about Kinston earlier. That's where I played minor league balls with Cleveland. And fortunately, I was picked up by St. Louis a couple of years later, where I actually made my major league debut. So I played
the Cardinals.
I played a year in the major leagues with the Cardinals. And
when was that? That wasn't when
2008. 2008.
Was that when who was the big home run hitter back?
Yeah, Albert Pujols. Yeah,
yeah.
Got a couple of bars with him. Yeah.
Oh,
but
that's dope.
It was a cool experience, because obviously he's going to be a future Hall of Famer, and I like to joke around and say I was there for about 30 of them. So.
That's
the
dope.
home runs he hit, but it was a good experience. And then from there, I got shipped over to Atlanta and played in Gwinnett for a little bit, and got one little game with the Braves up at Turner Field before they.
What position you played?
I was an outfielder.
Okay.
I was an outfielder. So, and from there, I played in Mexico. I played in Venezuela, and kind of ended my career. Trying to hold on to it and things like that. But at some point, you got to start making decisions about your life in the future. And then with the international thing, as far as like coaching, I actually coached in France. So I didn't play in France, but it was still a good opportunity, because now I get to use my baseball skill instead of being a person on the field. Now I get to show another side of me, and that's the teaching side. So even though we were coaching adults, we was trying to get them to the Olympics, but it was still a good experience, because obviously France, it's not really big on baseball. So to kind of instill some of the knowledge that we have from here, and they still kind of look up to us, especially as players who play professionally. A good friend of mine, he was the head coach. He's actually from South Carolina, but he asked me if I wanted to coach, and you know, I'm a big traveler, so he said France. I said absolutely, and that's how that happened. Yeah.
Dope. That had to have been an amazing experience being in France, and
Oh man, it was.
I feel like
experience.
I've heard they responded a little differently to black culture. Is that true?
Well, I mean, it's almost kind of like anywhere you go to, especially
Outside of the United States?
Yeah, where blacks are the minority, and the minority, you know, everyone has their history in a sense. Especially in France, you know, you'll see most of their black people probably have some sort of West African influence or whatnot. And not that I'm too familiar with what they go through, but you know, we all kind of have our run-ins with the system, and kind of just being firsthand experiencing things from traveling and things like that is definitely an eye-opener, especially when you have an opportunity where you get a chance to learn from people and actually be in it. And so from that, it was a good experience where, you know, you always hear about things, but now you get to actually see things for itself, and that's what I normally get from when I travel.
Nice.
How long were you in France?
So we'll kind of go back and forth. It'll be like a month at a time. We'll come in, we'll work with them for a month, we'll come back, they'll fly us back in. So we did that for about 3.5 years. Like I said, we was trying to qualify for the Olympics. We kind of fell short of it, but it was still some good experiences. We played in 2 European tournaments where we finished middle of the pack. The first time we were actually in the Netherlands, Amsterdam and Utrecht. And then the second go round, we ended up in Germany. And so that was a good experience. Had our spring training in the Canary Islands. They went to South Africa and played. So it was a good opportunity to travel and everything, as well as, you know, like I said, teach people who aspired, you know, to be at the same level that, you know, some of the guys back here are.
Dope. So you still coach in any capacity now here in the United States?
No, I'm not a coach here, and to be honest with you, coaching never really was my forte. It was one of those things where I love to teach, but I didn't want to be a coach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was always this thing that growing up, I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, but once that was it, you know, I wanted to be able to show the other sides of myself and not just be labeled as a baseball guy. The France thing was appealing because I love to travel, and so baseball is something I know, but then we get to travel, especially on somebody else's dime. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was an eye-opening experience, like I said, because something that I really didn't aspire to do, I still enjoy doing it, especially when you see people who are eager to learn. But as far as here, like, I'm not necessarily coaching on a official or organized capacity, but you know, if somebody had their son or something who wants to, you know, learn how to hit or pick my brain or something like that, I'm definitely always open to that, because, you know, camps like that and things, working with people individually is something that I'm never going to take away from a youngster.
Nah, that's a dope skill to learn, because I feel like which sport makes the most money? Isn't it baseball?
Now it seems like all of them do, but yeah, baseball, man, they giving away money now. I wish I was on that end.
Yeah, that's what
of
I was
crazy.
thinking.
Exactly.
And I don't know, you might be able to kill this kind of stereotype or something, but it's people that believe, you know, it's like these baseball players get paid a lot of money, and you talking about you was an outfielder, right? How often were you just standing out there in the outfield, you know, because your pitcher was doing his thing.
Exactly.
You know, and the inning just closed out, you run back to the dugout.
Exactly.
And you just collected a crazy check off the pitcher's back. But, I mean, it's obviously a lot more work than just that if you're getting paid more than the other sports.
Well, I think that's just the whole notion of being focused, right? Because there's going to be times in which you may not see a ball for a whole game, but you still got to be in it every single pitch of the game.
Yeah, you can't fall asleep.
You can't fall asleep, but like I said, because we're getting judged on our readiness and preparedness. So even though it may seem boring to the outside people, you know, you never know. Everything's reactionary in sports. So once that one ball in that crucial situation comes, you got to be ready, and that's why you get paid, right? So you can be ready for whenever those times come. And then obviously, when you go hit, you got to do your thing on the offensive side. But I always tell people, I'm never mad at nobody making their bread. I don't care how much they make, as long as they do it legally. Because at the end of the day, I'll break it down like this. If you was the only person doing what you did at IBM, you would probably be making $10 million too. It's just that IBM, they got 30, 40,000, employees, if not more.
Sure.
So it almost becomes expendable. Whereas in sports, you only got a handful of people who do, a certain job. And so you're making these people a whole lot of money. It's only a handful of y'all. So yeah, you're pretty much the best in the world at what you do. So why not pay you for what you do? And like I said, when people ask me, do you think people are making too much money? I say, no, make as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody's saying that about the owners.
This is true.
This might sound random, but were you ever a Wayans Brothers fan? Did you ever watch the show The Wayans Brothers?
Yeah, I watched it. I wasn't much of a Wayans Brothers fan.
Okay.
Especially Marlon Wayans at the point, but then I saw his last stand up that he did, and he had me rolling, and I kind of was like, all right, I can mess with him again, because sometimes I thought he would get a little corny, but
I could see that.
Man, that show was not. Man, that show was not funny, man. He did
surprise me though on that stand up. He had me rolling, and I think sometimes I just feel like he did too much, and I think that's more
he was definitely the silliest out of the whole family. But the reason I asked was because there was an episode where what was his name? Kenny Lofton.
Yeah,
it was an episode with Kenny Lofton, and they were showing like Marlon. He was like this baseball player, but he was trash.
Yeah,
and he was mad pretty much his whole life at Kenny Lofton because he was supposed to catch this one ball that like saved the game, and Kenny Lofton came through and flew through. He snagged it from him, and everybody was putting Kenny Lofton on their shoulders and stuff. But you would have you got to look back at the
I have watched my share of Wayans Brothers, but I'm trying to think if. It's been so long ago. I mean, now if you ask me about Martin, I can tell you, but but one thing about Kenny though, I remember he had his own little shoe in back when I was in junior high, and everybody had the Kennys, but I didn't have them, but I wanted them. But everybody used to come out with the Kennys.
Oh yeah, Ken Lofton.
Yeah, I was a little mad, man.
Ken Griffey. I think more people had the Ken Griffeys than I can remember. Has any baseball player sold more sneakers than Ken Griffey Jr.?
I mean, I don't know. It wasn't really like the hot thing.
Bo Jackson's.
The
Bo Jackson's.
Bo Jackson's.
But Ken Griffey, he was the face of baseball.
He was
True.
like
he was the cool guy. He had the hat backwards. All that
the
stuff.
smooth. Would you say he had one of the smoothest swings?
Definitely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was
Ken
never.
Griffey was an animal, man.
Crazy. So, did you have any people that you looked up to? Because I ain't gonna lie, like baseball was always a cool sport, but I can never just get good enough to obviously get to where you're at. But when I used to watch baseball and see Ken Griffey and even though he fell off because of the drugs, like Darryl Strawberry, it was a lot of
Strawberry was a beast.
Yeah, it was a lot of black players that was so dope, and it seemed like it was a lot of Spanish players. You had your white players, but it seemed like the black players that was out there was all nasty, like.
Oh no, man! I'm definitely. It's funny that you asked because somebody sent me a Instagram post in my DM, and it had Dion, it had Barry Bonds, it had Devin White, Ken Griffey, and Delino D. Shields, and all those guys, and they was actually doing a slam dunk contest.
Oh, I saw that.
And so I sent that to my ex, and it was like, these are the baseball players who had the swag on the field. Mm-hmm. But it showed that their athleticism, because they can convert that into
dunking on a 10-foot rim.
I actually looked up to, you know, growing up, like Ken Griffey, like Barry Bonds. I loved them. I mean, I grew up a Dodger fan, so anybody Dodger was I looked up to. But then you had guys like Barry Bonds and, you know, your Griffeys, your Kennys, and your Gary Sheffields, all those guys that you grow up watching. And, I mean, it makes you want to play baseball. And I think that is something that we kind of lost a connection to as the generation started to, you know, get older and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you say you hadn't seen that Wayans Brothers episode. I know you seen Sandlot. That's like a classic baseball movie.
You got to.
Yeah. I actually watched. I've seen that movie so many times. I watched it again probably a few weeks ago. We was coming back on a road trip, and I had pulled it up.
Exactly.
Watched the whole thing from start.
That's a classic, and if you haven't seen that one, you know.
Yeah, the Great Bambino. But that's what's up. So baseball led you, you know, to other places, other parts of the world. So what's going on now these days, since you said the coaching wasn't really your thing? What's your thing nowadays?
So like I said, I mean, I'm not a coach in the physical sense of like baseball, but I still feel like I'm coaching or better yet teaching. And that actually kind of started, you know, through my speaking. And so with speaking, I actually started that while I was actually playing, because for one, it was easier to get into places as a baseball player, you know, versus someone just trying to, you know, just get a message through. So, you know, I parlayed that whole baseball spiel.
Dope.
So that's how I got into schools. That's how I got into, you know, speaking at organizations and stuff like that.
Nice.
I mean, you got to use your ends.
Right.
So
That's dope.
and it was something that I always enjoyed doing. I love speaking. I started speaking when I was in high school. You know, I felt I was horrible at it. I was nervous. I was always forgetting stuff because, you know, I had that scare fright. I mean, that's stage fright.
Right.
And it was a learned skill that I had to do, because it was one of those things that
You just threw yourself in the fire.
you practice, and you put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. Eventually, you'll learn how to overcome it, even if you're still nervous. And instead of now having that nervousness prevent you from doing things, you learn how to channel it and actually use it as a form of preparedness. Because, like, for me, like, I mean, like anybody else, speaking in front of people, it was like the scariest thing, because you always wonder what people were thinking and things like that. But the first time I spoke and bombed it, I made myself join the next speaking contest in high school, and I killed it.
Took it
that
as
time.
a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And from that time, you start seeing that, oh, I could actually do this, and I actually have a message. So, you know, if I actually want to help people, I got to learn how to be able to perfect this and channel whatever I'm feeling and turn it into something positive.
So how much do you think fear is related to just lack of preparation?
You know, I don't know, because a lot of people are prepared and they're still afraid.
Yeah.
So I think the fear is more so based on the things that we have no control of, and that's what other people you know, may perceive us to be, right? Because a lot of things that we do, we're basing it off what somebody else may perceive.
Right.
And so once I learned to kind of knock that out the way, because at the end of the day, I had to tell myself, well, I'm the one out here speaking, you're listening to me, you know? So obviously I'm a commodity in a sense. So once I learned that, then I started kind of eliminating that whole idea. And I started to embrace fear. Like, it's okay to be afraid, right? Like, when I would go to bat, I was nervous. You know, I mean, it was never like I never was afraid of being nervous. I just wanted to make sure that when it was my time, that I was ready to go.
Right.
You know, I'm always nervous before I speak, but once I utter that first word, then it's like it's go time.
Right.
You know, same when I'm in the batter's box. You know, once that pitcher lifts his leg up, it's like, okay, it's go time. So from that standpoint, it's like I embrace that nervousness, I embrace that fear, but when it's go time, it's go time. And that's kind of how I look at it.
It's like the butterflies that you pretty much get from whatever you got going on before you get started. Once you actually get rolling, it becomes much easier. Like, for example, I could give you an example that you were actually at. Remember that time we was at the radio station And the reason why I was actually afraid because I deep down felt that I really wasn't 100% prepared. So that goes off to your point that you were saying earlier. Sometimes fear can be, can start or originate from the lack of preparation. Because deep down, I felt like I was not prepared enough, and it manifested itself in live time, in real time, when it was actually time for me to do my thing. Because I knew deep down that I really wasn't prepared like I should have been. You see what I'm saying? So it can, in fact, be a factor as far as that's concerned, as far as you not being prepared. But like he said, once you get it started and get going, then it's easier to keep moving. But if you're not 100% prepared before you go, on the mound or whatever the case, then it could definitely go downhill for sure.
Yeah, I don't think.
And what ends up being the result is because you're not prepared, so now you put yourself in a position where I might look like a fool in front
Exactly.
of you, right?
Exactly.
So it goes right back to the perception. And I think that obviously preparation is good, but I know one key thing is always, it's not necessary just to prepare for something in particular in that moment, but to always just have something like knowledge base, or like we talked about reading earlier.
Right.
I read a lot, I travel a lot, I do a lot of things. I try to have a lot of experience so I can always have something to talk about.
Right.
So in case, there may be something that you may not necessarily, be privy to, you can just pull a story out. It's like, well, I don't know this, but I'm just about to share this story. And you always have content. And that's one thing that I was talking to a friend of mine about speaking, is that I always have a story. I can get the same message to a different audience, but I have a story for that audience so they can relate. And so I'm never worried about falling short or getting stuck, because when push comes to shove, you just break out a story. And so that kind of helps combat that feeling of unpreparedness, because if you're missing a fact or you're missing the numbers, the statistics, you just pull a story out. And people relate to stories more so than they relate to numbers anyway. So
right.
I think the more you can do, the more stories you can have, the more examples you can have that you could always just pull out. That's why people pull out quotes a lot. It's because, when things, get a little hectic, they pull out a quote and then they just elaborate off the quote. But it's always something that you can have in your back pocket so that you can give yourself that kind of buffer for if you forget something, or if you feel a little nervous or feel a little unprepared, you just share a story.
As a motivational speaker, who are some of your favorite motivational speakers?
Well, right now, I kind of came up when Eric Thomas started making his rise, and I loved it because of his passion. You have those the Les Browns of the world, the OGs, the Tony Robbins and things like that. But in general, I like just watching people speak, whoever's speaking. You don't even have to be a motivational speaker. As long as I see you in front of a podium, in front of an audience, giving a message, I pay attention, because to me, how people present themselves and how people make themselves relatable to people, like, that's empowering. Like, I love watching politicians speak, whether I agree with them or not, because I'm watching how they connect with people. I love watching Barack speak because he has a way of connecting. But there's other people who have ways of connecting with people in other ways. And to me, that's still fascinating, because speaking, it's not just emotional, it's psychological too. And however you can reach somebody, or whatever way you can get a message in, I want to learn that, because, I'm learning what to do and what not to do as well. So yeah, Eric Thomas is my guy. But I enjoy watching people speak in general, because I'm always learning from it.
So do you have a certain style maybe? Because like Eric Thomas, like, is anything you took from him that you applied to your style? Because it seemed like Eric Thomas, his thing, like you said, is the passion. And, he's like, if you don't want this more, you want to wake up every morning. Yeah. He's like yelling, and, it's just like, it's like a pastor. It's like a pastor in a church, / like a coach, because he talks to a lot of athletes,
exactly.
And it's very impactful. I see a lot of fitness videos and just mostly fitness videos where they'll put his voice behind it because
Exactly.
it matches that intensity of somebody on the bench press or somebody training on a basketball court,
Exactly.
anything sports related. But it's like that coach, which, you've coached before, but it also is like a pastor kind of thing. Like,
Exactly.
do you use that in any way, or are you more laid back, or how do you go about?
So I try to stay in my lane a little bit, because one thing I learned is that people could fish out authenticity, right? I hear a lot of people speaking, and I try to hear them be a Eric Thomas. I try to hear them be a Les Brown. And I just try to be myself, because even when I feel like I get out of my box, I don't feel as authentic. But I would say more so than a style in terms of a performance, like my strength, I think, with my numbers is how I put a message together. It's the examples I use. It's when somebody hear me give a message, it's like, I was wondering where you was going with that. You know what I'm saying? You talked about the leaf on the ground, but I was like, where he gonna go with that? Right? So I can find something and I can turn that into a message. And so whether it's my experience, whether it's something I saw, whether it's something I heard, and I feel like I'm pretty good at taking a message out of anything. I can like look at this microphone and I can turn a message into it. And I think that's where my strength is, because it gets people to see things a little differently. And as motivational speaker, I guess that's our job, is to kind of get people to look at things differently. But I try to make them even look a little bit deeper. And that's something I feel like
you got me already thinking deeply, because I'm like, how's he gonna turn this microphone into? It's like I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
And so, like for instance, one of my messages that I give. So I went skydiving. I probably been skydiving about 3 times.
Oh wow!
Right, but the first time, and we talked about that nervousness, right? That nervousness came from that anticipation, right? Like, I don't know how it's gonna feel. I wasn't necessarily worried about dying, but I'm afraid of heights. And so when I got, to the door, my fear went from fear to calm. So now it goes back to what I was saying, it's go time, right? So, we jump in, we get on the ground, we do all this stuff, and, I'm all excited. I'm just fired up, my adrenaline's going. And then I'm over here, what did I get from that? And I was like, why was I so calm when I was at the door? Like, what happened when I was at that door? And the one thing that I realized was that when I was at the door, I looked out in the horizon and I saw everything. I saw further than I probably ever seen, because, I had that in my view. And the first thing that came to my mind is that the reason why people are afraid of height is because it's revealing. And I say that is because when you're at a high altitude, you see all the opportunities that's out there. You see the whole world out there. And a lot of people are afraid of that responsibility, right? And so what happens when we're on the ground, a lot of our vision is obscure. You got the buildings, you got the trees, but it's comfortable, right? And so for me, when they say it's lonely at the top, it's lonely at the top because a lot of people don't want that responsibility at the top. Why? Because the top reveals a lot to you, and it shows you, or it asks you, are you ready for it?
Right.
And that's kind of where I got when I was at the thing. It was like, wow, I saw all this that I can conquer. And when I transpose that into my own life, when I want to elevate myself to high altitudes in my life, it's like I see all the opportunity that's available that a lot of people are not ready for. And so that's why you hear those people say, oh man, that's crazy what you did, or oh man, you're not worried, you're not afraid, or man, I wouldn't do that. It's because they're comfortable on the ground where it's comfortable, where they don't have to see all the responsibilities that's out there. So it's those type of things that I do when I have experiences. I'm finding a message out of it, and I'm trying to find a way that I can make it relatable to somebody else who may need to hear it, because one message may not be received by somebody else. And so if I can put them in ways that I can get people to receive it, then that's what I feel like I'm pretty good at.
As far as your messages are concerned, are they as far as you having a speaking engagement, are your messages pre-written, or is it something you just kind of wing when you get there? Do you already have an idea of what you're going to speak on in advance?
Yeah, I mean, so as far as being prepared, sometimes I write them down, but I try not to verbatim it. That's where the stories come in, because you know your stories better than anything.
Right.
But I try to at least have the central core message of what I want. So I have notes all over the place.
Gotcha.
You know, some of my teammates used to laugh at me because it was like, yeah, you got posters all on the wall, because every time I come up with an idea, I at least got to write it down so that I can at least know what I want to talk about. Or because it's like that first thought, you might get that one little line, and if you don't write it down the way you thought of it, you may have the same idea, or you may have the same thought maybe 10, 20 minutes later, but it's just not going to sound right the first time it came out. And it may not hit the same. So that's why I write a lot of notes, because I want it to hit the same way that I thought about it. And when I do that, you know, I think that that's when I'm most effective, because once I have that topic, then I can expound. You know, I can get a message, then I can tell a story, and then I can close it up.
Word. I was thinking about what you said about that fear of being at the top. I'm thinking more so you go to the top, it's the only way to go. Once you get to the top, you know, you got to go down. That's scary within itself, because it's like, not only did you have to, like, how long does it even take to get that high when you're skydiving? It's like you
take about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. You got to ease yourself up
just to get up, and then it's pretty fast going back down, right?
Exactly.
It's pretty fast. So I don't know, that's a lot when you apply it to just working towards a goal. It's like, all right, you know, like a Drake, you know, he's like moving up, he's trying to prove himself, then he finally gets to the top of the rap game, and you know, it could get kind of scary, because I ain't gonna lie, I feel like that put him in a situation where now he's trying to sound like this artist, he's trying to take this style, and you know, the publicity stunts, and you know, let me do a joint album with 20, like it's just, I can imagine what his team is going through, trying to figure out how to keep him at the top, and it's a lot of opportunity to do something wrong, to, you know.
And it is, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of, right? Because the first thing they say, what if I fall? You know, if I fall, if I crash and burn, you know. And so with that, obviously, like, even if you use my example, he's up there, so now he got a lot of responsibility to stay up there. He got a lot of people dependent on him as well too, right? And what happens if he fall? Everybody that's connected to him fall. Right. So once again, that's revealing, you know? Is a lot of people ready for that responsibility? A lot of people are not, you know? I mean, we have a lot of aspirations to go. We say what we want to do, like a lot of people. We say what we want to do, but when it comes to actually putting ourselves in that position, you know, we punt. I mean, think about the people who go to church. You know, the most faithful people in church, the first thing that they do is to say, well, I'll put it in God's hand, because it's easier than to go after it
for yourself.
Exactly, right? So really, to me, sometimes I see that as fear. I'm gonna let somebody else do what I can do right now. I'd rather wait for somebody else to do it for me than do it right now, because really, in reality, I'm probably afraid that I might fall.
I'm gonna need somebody to blame. If I put it in God's hands, I ain't gotta say I did.
Exactly.
I don't like that statement. I don't want to be strong towards it. But I don't like that statement. I just told somebody, like, faith is not faith without work. You have to do the work.
Exactly.
That's a fact.
After you put it in God's hands, you still gonna have to take some steps.
Facts.
He gonna.
Exactly.
You gonna have to meet him somewhere.
Exactly. And I always looked at it too, like, and if you really believe that God has his hand in it, then you should be comfortable in taking those steps.
That's true.
Because you know he's not going to let you fall. And so that's kind of one of the tug of wars that you have, you know, when you're trying to convey messages to people, because, you know you're giving out a positive message, you know you're being encouraging, but you still have that one person who's still wrestling with their fear. But I'm just going to let God handle it. If he wanted to be, and it's like, but God also wants you to progress too, and he know you're not going to progress if you ain't going to move. And so how do now we get this person to move in God's will. That's one of the hard parts with motivation, because you can get people fired up in that moment, but how do you sustain it on the back end? Because once you go home, you're back into the elements of the world, you know, and you got people who are going to be doubting you. You got people who are going to talk about you, all these different things, and then you're just gonna have to deal with your own procrastination and all those things. So it's like, how do we keep that? And I think that's
self accountability
of motivation and trying to sustain that.
So how do you what do you do in that scenario? You got two people sitting next to each other. You motivate the one person, and they're both motivated. One, he keeps it going, and he's like, he winds up reaching his goals based off the motivation that you gave him. Then you got the other person, they're motivated, but it's a little harder for them to put in the work to get to where they want to get. Is that just part of the life? You know, you're not gonna touch everybody the same way.
Absolutely. In some cases, you know, I've became okay with the idea that I'm not going to reach everybody, but somebody else may. I'm also understand that some people are just not ready. You know, they may say they're ready, but they're just not ready. And some people are not willing to be held accountable. And I think that's one of the main things. Some people got self-accountability, and some people need other people. I have friends who, you know, I try to hold them accountable, and we go at it, because it's like, I see a goal that you said you want. I'm here to be your accountability partner, but it doesn't seem like you want it that bad. Right. So until you want it that bad, then I'm going to step back, because I can't want it more than you do. Facts. And that's one thing I've always said. I'm here to help you. I'm here to be there, but I'm not going to want it more than you do. And if I find myself wanting it more than you do, I'm going to step back.
Word. So how do you you go to these speaking engagements and you speak to a crowd of kids? When you leave there, you know, how do you figure out, like, damn, was I impactful? Do you follow up with the group, or you just like chalk it up to either they with it or they ain't, and you just on to the next engagement?
I mean, sometimes I get feedback, and, you know, sometimes I hear back from teachers who will kind of update me on things, and even more importantly, it's and more inspiring is when I hear back from the kids themselves, especially afterwards. They'll come talk to me, and, you know, they'll share some of their stories with me and things like that, and then down the line, when you start seeing them actually doing things that progress, not necessarily saying I'm the sole reason, but, you know, I can always go back and feel like I had some part into some of that progress, because you never really know once you leave what type of impact you had on somebody's life. But I do have confidence that the message that I had, you know, what was relevant, and as long as I can leave with that, then I know I did my job.
So what's like the biggest success story that you feel like you've come across? Like, you gave your speech, or even going back to the coaching, like, what's the biggest success story that you could think of, you know, where you could just like really be proud of it?
Well, as far as speaking in terms of success stories, I can't necessarily say I know what the biggest success story is, as far as, like, you know, seeing people that, you know, you teach graduate from college and those things like that. But I do, and it doesn't necessarily even come from me speaking, but there was a instance in which I was actually kind of feeling down myself. You know, I had just got sent down from the major leagues to the minor leagues, and I was pretty much told that no matter how good I played in spring training, I wasn't going to make the team. So now I'm over here, you know, feeling sorry for myself. And so I was down in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was walking in the little mall. It was early in the morning. Nobody was there. And as I was walking, I saw a white guy, his son, and a little black boy. Little white boy, his son, had an Albert Pujols shirt on. The black boy had my jersey on.
Oh, that's dope.
Now I'm like, I'm a nobody, like in a sense, right? Compared to Albert, but I'm like, but he has my jersey on. First time I seen anybody with my jersey. So I actually go up to him and I said, hey man, I like your jersey. I said, that's me. And it lit his eyes up. And he was so like surprised that like I met a Major League Baseball player.
Right.
That's dope.
And I had lost the fire to play from that because it's almost like somebody took something away from me. They told me no matter if I earn it, you're not going to get it.
Right.
And so for me, I was kind of like whatever. I was in whatever mode. But when I saw that happen, like it showed me what I was playing for. It showed me what I spoke for, you know, for kids like that. But what made it even more important was about maybe 3 months later, I got a letter in my locker, and it was from his mom. And his mom, I don't know how she found me, but she sent me a letter with a picture of the little boy, and she thanked me for just going up there and talking to him and introducing myself. He said that made his day. He said all he talked about was that at school, and she said for the first time in a long time, I've seen him smile.
That's real.
And that right there, it changed the perspective of why I do a lot of things I do, whether it's speaking, whether it's just being involved in people's life, trying to impart a positive message and just being helpful, because it's those reactions, those responses, it's those letters that I want to get. Things that I didn't even think twice about that actually impacted somebody's life. Because without that, I probably would have quit playing baseball that year. But that gave me a renewed spark for even wanting to play. But then it also showed me even more so how impactful my speaking could be as well.
That's dope. Yeah, it's always good to know that you made that type of impact. You never know who's watching.
Exactly.
You know, and yeah, these young kids, they need all the motivation and inspiration they can. So that's cool that you tap back in and
exactly,
you know, refound your spark, like you said. So you mentioned, and Tastro mentioned the website. What's the website where people could tap into, you know, what you got going on?
The website I have is brianbartonaccess.com.
Okay.
You can see some of the stuff that I'm doing. I wrote a couple of books. I'm working on my third one. I'm actually going to Orlando this weekend, you know, just to get a little R&R, but I really pretty much want to finish up closing out my chapters for my third book. And yeah, you know, check it out, and you know, hopefully I have some more stuff coming up in the near future.
And speaking of books, because I was looking on your page and I see that you are an avid reader just based on the books that you had listed. What book do you recommend to the people as of right now to dig in as far as just self-development, self-motivation, and just pretty much just soul's progression?
Oh man, there's so many books. I mean, the first one, when it comes to actual money, I mean, it's a simple book. You know, I always say The Richest Man in Babylon, because it gives you that quick hitter, you know, simple advice. When it comes to just life, I go to The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. And then I just finished reading a book called The Carpenter by John Gordon, which was a pretty interesting book. Obviously, you got your 4 Agreements, which I'm really keen on. And then I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan, so I read all his books, and more so just because how he is able to take things and make you think outside the box. But as far as just development, you can't go wrong with The Law of Success. You can't go wrong with Think or Grow Rich. You can't go wrong with, you know, The Richest Man in Babylon if you wanna just get your basic principles on obtaining wealth. But it's a lot of books out there. You know, some that I'm probably even forgetting the name. I think one of my favorite books was The Law of Success. I mean, not The Law of Success, The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
Robert Greene.
I love that book, just from a psychological standpoint. But yeah, man, it's so many in there. But sometimes you gotta even go fictional. You you got to refresh your mind and get away from the whole cerebral thinking and reading aspect, and just kind of just flush your mind out and just continue to read, but also entertain yourself as well too. I think that's very important as well. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I tuned out a lot of the entertainment for a while, but not so much the entertaining books. I've been more so getting into like the old school shows like we grew up on. I always talk about that. Been tuned into the BMF series. I don't know if you've been watching that.
That's a dope show.
Yeah. That boy, what's his name? Lamar?
Yeah,
that boy Lamar is crazy, man.
Cool, man. He's cool.
No, I haven't seen any of the BMFs. I probably saw the first season of Power or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not much of a TV watcher, but when I do watch, I kind of binge them. I just finished watching the last episode of Walking Dead. Like, I'm a big Walking Dead, zombie, anything zombie, I'm watching that. I always, joke with my friends. They be laughing at me because I say every time I watch a little zombie movie, I always have a dream about zombies and I'm killing zombies. And I said, so I love watching them just so I can have those dreams so I can start killing zombies. But I think that, sometimes you got to have an outlet, to be able to kind of, refresh yourself, whether it's reading, whether it's, watching TV, traveling or doing much, because sometimes we can overwork ourselves to the point where we drain ourselves. And I think sometimes we got to pay attention to ourselves and our bodies and our mental. I went to Cuba a few weeks ago. I say for Thanksgiving, and I saw just the strain you can put on your brain just by speaking Spanish all week. By the last day, I was fried, and I was like, I just need to come back home just so I can get a refresher. And it's important, when you start finding yourself burning out, that you have to find a way to refresh so that you can restart and reboot. And I think those things are important.
So you were pretty active into sports. Are you still active physically at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm actually gonna go to the gym after I leave here. But,
word. Yeah, I was just wondering if that was another outlet for you.
Yeah, I love going to the gym. I try to run. I kind of held off on running a little bit because my knees be hurting. But I definitely got to get a little bit in shape because we got an MLB alumni game against the Savannah Bananas in March, the little minor league team. They're like
the team that be dancing.
They're like the baseball Globetrotters. Yeah. So we're gonna play against them in, I think, March 11. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard somebody say it's gonna be on ESPN. So I said, let me go and get on that.
Yeah, they get a lot of
publicity. A little TV time. It's been a while. So, but I mean, that should be fun. But I try to stay active in those sense. And sometimes I'll play in the men's league tournament in Arizona when they have the little men's league World Series, stuff like that. But also skate, I dance, I do salsa dance, and I try to find different things to do, man, just so that I could not only do something different, but you meet new people when you do different things. You have different experience, and I think those things are important. So.
Nah, that's dope. So one more time in case they missed it, what's the website so they could tune in and tap in with your movement?
Appreciate it. The website is Brian Barton, BRIAN, Barton, BARTON, access.com.
Dope.
Nice.
You got any Instagram or Facebook?
My Instagram is Brian Deon, DEON, Barton. And that's my Twitter as well. I'm on Facebook, Brian D. Barton. So yeah, if you ever hop on, just check me out and follow me and leave a message.
Okay, and is there a calendar or is there any speaking engagements that we could look forward to that we can maybe pop up and support you?
Yeah, well, working on some stuff right now. I'm actually trying to work and finalize to see if I'm going to speak when I go to Orlando with the baseball team at UCF. So we're trying to finalize that this week and, hopefully have some stuff coming up. But right now I'm just really kind of focused on finishing up my book so I can roll that out and, do some courses with that, because that's like the next step I want to do, start, doing courses, trainings, and more of that corporate spiel.
Dope. Well, I would definitely like to know if you got something going on in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
I can feel the vibes just from sitting here during the podcast. I've been motivated and inspired. I'm sure everybody listening has been feeling the same way. So yeah, I want to stay in that loop any way I can. Tastro, if you find out faster than I do, let me know.
I got you covered.
You know, bars. We'll bring the whole squad up there.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So is there anything else, Tastro, Brian, bars, anybody want to put something else out there that is on their chest, or any extra motivation that we haven't put out there? We got a lot of motivation from this episode. I don't know if we can put out any more at this point, but
I just want to say thank you for pulling up on us, man. Like, this has been like G said, very inspirational. It's one thing to motivate people, but it's another thing for them to be able to take away something from it and actually utilize it later on down the road. And I feel like your testimony and your story entails that. And so with that alone, I'm truly inspired, and I'm thinking that everybody else that will be listening would definitely be inspired as well with what you got going on. We really appreciate you for pulling up on us, man, for real.
I appreciate it. I guess the last thing I just say is that the most important thing with anything that we do, whether it's motivational speaking, whether it's your podcast, or whether it's just our endeavors in our life, as long as we just keep it authentic, because people can read through that.
Facts.
And that's the main thing that I think that people try to garner when they're looking for help, is they first want to see how authentic you is, because a message ain't really a good message if it ain't coming from the right place.
Facts.
And I think as long as we keep that sense of authenticity and know why we're doing it and know that it has good intention behind it, I think that'd be very, very impactful in people's lives.
Where I like that. Well, man, I hope you enjoy yourself out there with the palm trees in Orlando.
Oh, man, definitely, man.
Try to bring some of that hot weather back if you can. Put it in a little bottle or something and bring it back, because it's, I don't know, it's been a different type of winter in Atlanta. I usually don't even wear a jacket in the wintertime, but they've been.
And I love some cold weather too, so I don't know if I can do that for you.
Yo, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, please, man.
I love the turtleneck cover up my back too. I with the turtleneck.
Par's crazy. Yeah, I do got the turtleneck on, because it's been hitting the 30s, 40s.
The
teens. I'm trying to see some of that 60, 70 degree weather come back. But yeah, that's been a really, really dope episode. Tastro, I'm gonna leave it up to you to take us out. You know how we do with the outro.
Well, yo, stay alert, stay alive, because the life you may save could very well be your own.
Stay alert, stay alive.
Stay alive.
Yeah, I had to keep repeating that to myself on this drive back to Atlanta, because I was tired as hell. All I could hear is Tastro in the back of my head, like, stay alert, stay alive.
I'm telling you, man. Like, see, for me, the reason why it resonates so much, bro, is because, like I said, when I was in basic training, my drill sergeant would tell us that all the time, man. And it just it just made so much sense, because granted, we're in a military setting, so I understand the gist of why he was saying it, but that applies to everyday life, man. Like, I hear situations happening all the time, and I just wonder, what could have been done different to avoid that from transpiring that way. It's just the small details, man. So stay alert, stay alive, y'all, for real.
All right, well, there we have it. Thank you again, our amazing guests. Bars, appreciate you on the camera.
Yay.
Tastro, we back at it next episode. We appreciate y'all tuning in. This is the Unfocused and Focused podcast, and we out of here.